Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Two Doors podcast. I am here with a very special guest this week. I am here with Sandy Gil. Sandy, with a background in finance and payroll, Sandy Gil was the first employee at Space and Time Media Limited from its inception in January 2000. That's over 24 years ago. Following a 10-year initiation into the world of independent media planning and buying during her years at WJP, it was her directorship at Space and Time Media, followed by her migration into the role of managing director and ultimately COO of Space and Time, which really shaped her career. A commitment to client services and a dedication to the support and well-being of her team have been the fundamentals at the heart of her career, which culminated into a well-deserved exit at the end of 2024, when Sandy finally hung up her corporate boots after a long and fulfilling career. And as you can probably guess from her name, this is my stepmom. So welcome to the show, Sandy.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here.
How do you feel when you hear about those successes and those achievements?
I don't really see them as successes. I see them as a job well done, but I don't necessarily kind of attribute any great achievement to them. I'm a person that can't do anything by half measures, and because I like to do the best I possibly can, that's just how I worked in my working career. And yeah, if it ended up being quite good, then that was a good thing.
Yes, and I feel you're downplaying this because obviously Space and Time Media, if you're not aware, is a UK company buying and selling advertisement space. And how many, so you were employee one, and
Yes.
then obviously COO, you've just exited after many years. And so tell us how many people you were leading as an organization and how many offices you had.
So, we started with one employee on day one. And in fairness, actually on day one, there were two of us because I had somebody start with me that I had employed. And back in those days, I had just interviewed somebody in a wine bar with their baby in a pushchair because it wasn't terribly formal. So I started and employed this person part-time because I couldn't afford her full-time. So I took her on 3 days a week. And then at the exit, there were 128 staff and 5 offices across the country in the UK. So we had offices in Scotland and Manchester and Bournemouth and Reigate and London. But yeah, the very first interview was in a wine bar, and the very first office was in a converted barn with a stable door and cows out the back giving birth. So yeah, it was meager beginnings.
Yeah. And it's very impressive because obviously I've got to see a lot of this, and you've taught me a lot from even what you were talking about there, going above and beyond and that extra mile and that excellence stamp. And obviously when you're leading an organization or COO, there's a lot of moving parts, but also in the past 25 years, media may have changed slightly. I don't know.
It's changed unbelievably. In the old days, if we didn't have the internet when we started. So if we wanted to do research, we went to the library. You collaborated much more with other people because you needed their experience to know how to plan a particular campaign. You talked to people on the telephone all the time. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have email. We wrote letters and we put stamps on letters and we put them in the post, and everything was very much slower because we had time to post a letter, have a client respond to it, post a response back. And in the meantime, then you were working on a different project for a different client. Everything now is so immediate and everybody wants everything right now. And actually people don't really want to communicate with each other. They would much rather ping an email and not pick the telephone up. And I think that's a negative really in the advancement of technology, because in the world of media planning and buying, it's a communication business. And part of the fun of the role when I began was negotiating and picking up the phone and joking with people and kind of, no, you've got the wrong paper. And, you think we're a different agency. We're the agency that buy well, so don't give us that rate. If nobody's prepared to actually have a conversation, you can't do that on an email. So I think I've seen a lot of change, but not all of it for the positive. Some of it absolutely is, but not all of it.
And I want to dig into some of the leadership aspects, because when times change, like we're talking about email and phone calls and everything like that, but we had Miles on the show, and Miles talked about there's this new wave of like communicators, and they have to communicate. But there's also the concept that Steve Jobs spoke about, where she was like, if you want things done, hire smart people that are smarter than you and empower them to do it.
Yeah.
Like, what's your thoughts on that quote?
I completely agree. I think being closed to the idea that as the leader you should know the most is a very narrow view. And actually, when I started 25 years ago, which you do keep reminding me it was 25 years ago, so thank you for making me feel really old. But when I started 25 years ago, I did know everything because there was only me and the other employee. But as the agency progressed and as it evolved and as things became much more digital, which is absolutely not my field of expertise because it's not an arena that I've grown up in, I absolutely recruited people that did know how to do those things. And having people that know more than me just makes me look better because actually I have a team of people, or I had a team of people that were entirely qualified and knowledgeable. I didn't need to know it all myself.
And on your point about recruitment as well, how essential is it to hire right?
Oh, absolutely critical. And I think having trust in the person that's assisting you with that recruitment is absolutely paramount. And having somebody that understands your agency, the culture of your agency, the needs of your business, and the sorts of people that will fit in with your business is really critical. And when in the past we've recruited non-specific media roles, so finance roles, I used to insist that the agency would come, the recruitment agency would come in and meet us and see the environment, because it was a very young, vibey, slightly sweary environment, and not particularly accountancy environment. And so if a lady turned up in her twin set and pearls and was expecting just a number crunch all day, and there was a lot of banter going on and a lot of swearing in the background, it wasn't going to be the environment for her. And there was no point sending her to us. So the aspect of recruitment is really fundamental in getting the right partner to find you the right person so that they fit in with the culture of what you're trying to achieve.
You're so right, because I love going to clients and like seeing the culture and getting them to explain to me what are the main attractions of this place. Like, why would you do? Because I know that for you, your culture was huge. Like, you would do these football days and you do all of these, and I remember, and I was like, I really want to work there because of all of that. But like for me right now, like I'm consulting with these companies of going, hey, your interview process is too long. You know, just because we've had a new shift in the market doesn't mean that candidates are around that much longer. Like the average over here is about 10 days that they're available from start to finish if they're really good. So it's like we have to adapt. You've got ChatGPT AI, so people use that for their tech assessment. So get them to come in, because at the end of the day, you can't blag what you're actually hiring them for forever, right? So you'd want to see that interaction, because you make one bad hire and it can go quite bad.
And it's very costly. And I think when you're hiring into fields that you aren't an expert in, I mean, when we launched into search engine optimization, I didn't even know what SEO stood for, let alone know how to do it or know whether or not the person I was interviewing was going to be the right candidate. And we found a partner to help us find the right candidate. But in the very first instance, we made the wrong hire. And that was really costly because it meant that we were launching a division that actually didn't have the right hire. And so that was a salient lesson in getting the foundations right and making sure you absolutely make the correct hire at the right time that's the right cultural fit as well.
Yes. And switching gears, we're talking about leadership. Like, how would you define leadership?
I think leadership is helping to achieve the goals of the business by bringing the people below you on the journey with you. But it's very collaborative, or it should be, in my opinion, and that it shouldn't be dictatorial. It should be a desire that everybody gets excited by the vision that the business has, and that they're enthused by the journey that you want to take the business on, but you want them to come with you. And I think it's extremely important that people understand the why of why you're asking somebody to do something. My experience suggests that if you just say, we're doing this, then you get a much different response than if you say, we're doing this because we want to achieve this and this and this. And this is what it's going to look like for you individually. And this is what it's going to look like for the business. And by getting people on board, you're much more likely to have a successful outcome. And I think leadership is about patience and about communication and explanation and context.
That's brilliant. So explaining the why, taking people on a journey together, vision, explaining context, and so there's meaning in a collaborative environment, because you had huge tenure, right, of your staff, and everyone loved it.
I mean, the day one employee still works there. I've retired, she hasn't.
Yes.
So I mean, I've seen people on huge journeys. I've had people leave and come back. I've had people join me from university at day one, and 18 years later, that particular person is now a board director and based in the Manchester office. I've had people work in London and migrate to Manchester, work in Manchester and migrate to Reigate. I think giving the opportunity of having lots of different bases has helped greatly, because it means you don't lose staff necessarily. You have an alternative environment to offer them. But yeah, we've had people on lots of journeys. We've had single men that are now dads of 4. So yeah, it's been an exciting time to watch people grow.
And it's fulfilling, right?
Oh, massively.
I mean, we had Peter Salisbury as well talking, and I love what he talks about leadership, but he's like, it is huge. Like, there are sleepless nights. There are times when it's very hard, but it's the reward is always greater, I think. Like, you know, in order to have that greatness, there has to be difficulty.
Yes. Yeah.
And on your vision point, I've got a great question for you, because I've tried to take teams on vision before, but like, is there a certain formula where you would say that you have to explain the vision like every 6 months, 3 months? Like, what has been success in your? Because obviously you've got 5 leaders, right? And it's like those leaders are all on their own missions, but they're on a journey together, and you communicate. So yeah, I'd love how you'd explain the vision part.
I think the collaborative communication is really important. I mean, we always had an annual kind of conference, shall we call it, but that turned into a party. But we had an annual conference that got all of the offices together. And so everybody knew the people that they had previously been speaking to. They knew what they looked like, and they would get together. And we encouraged very much people going to alternative offices and meeting their co-workers and the people that they were dealing with. But I think also we ran staff satisfaction questionnaires quite frequently. So, and we were very open with the questions in terms of, you know, do you feel as though you're heard? Do you feel as though your points of view are taken into account? Do you feel collaborated with? Do you feel as though you're being taken on journeys? So it gave people a huge opportunity to feedback if they didn't feel that they were being led in the right direction or being kept informed. And I think also we have monthly updates with the agency. So we'll have an all-agency meeting, which is done on Teams, because it's not practical to have everybody moving around the country. But there are monthly Teams meetings where everybody is present, everybody joins in. There will be opportunities for questions and answers. So I think in terms of trying to stay relevant and current and keeping the communication lines open, and having an open door policy at all times was also pretty key. I mean, sometimes you'd see certain people coming towards you and go, gosh, this is going to be a long one. But yeah, making sure you're always available is really important.
And I sensed it's that servant leadership of like you're serving your staff. That's why you have that open door policy.
Absolutely.
And I presume recognition could be in there, or I might be wrong, because I've always found in environments where there's recognition of like high achievement or someone going above and beyond, it has influenced people, but it's also a carrot and stick situation.
Yeah. And I think it's really important that, you know, a job well done is recognized. And if people are worthy of a promotion, then it's celebrated and it's announced and it's shared, and it's known that where people have success, and even if it's not a promoted success, but it's a success because, I don't know, you had a client lunch and the person on reception did a really good job of bringing the lunch in and serving it and making sure the client was looked after and organised the parking space. It doesn't have to be celebration of really significant moments. It can just be a job well done on a good day.
I love that. A job well done on a good day. That's brilliant. And what about any parting wisdoms? Like if you could go back to your younger managing director, or, you know, you want to really share your heart with other people out there listening, because a lot of the people listening to this are into their leadership.
Don't sweat the small stuff. The thing you worry about today is the thing that you've completely resolved by tomorrow. So the fact that it kept you awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, which has happened to me countless times, by tomorrow, generally something different's happened and it's normally been superseded, in which case, what the devil was the point of laying awake at 3 o'clock in the morning? So I would definitely say don't sweat the small stuff. I would also say kind of take heart that you probably know more than the person that you're going to go and talk to. And so if you're anxious about going to talk to them, they're probably just as anxious about you going to talk to them, and you probably know more than them. And actually, I think in terms of managing staff and leading staff, they're just people. If you keep them on side by keeping them knowing that they're human and that they're wanting to understand the journey that they're on and why they're doing it, if you collaborate with them, you're probably going to get the best out of them.
That's huge, isn't it? Collaboration is key. I think for anything. And I love the points you talk about communication and sweating the small stuff. We've all done it though, isn't it? It's the princess with the pea in the mattress kind of scenario.
And I'm absolutely the queen of it. I mean, I am so good at the 3 o'clock pinger and waking up and laying there. And I'm absolutely an overthinker, which is no good for you either. So that's another definitely don't do overthinking. But without question, you can't help it. And it's really easy to say, don't bother about it. But I can guarantee that whatever I worried about on Tuesday is long gone by Friday and has been superseded by a whole different problem. But learn from what happened on Tuesday. And then the next time that's repeated, Tuesday's worry doesn't need to be worried about because you've got a solution in the bag.
It's true. It's true. And any final thoughts, anything that you want to share or anything that comes to mind?
Any final thoughts? I suppose, given that our relationship and given that I'm supposed to be advocating this man, I would absolutely say the relationship with your recruitment agent when you are finding staff is critically important. And so, I would advocate building relationships with your recruitment agent.
And on that note, that is a brilliant note to finish on. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome.
And brilliant. Thank you.